Hey y'all, let's talk about something that shakes us to our core, forgiveness and letting go. These are not just nice words we throw around in therapy sessions or Sunday sermons. They are some of the hardest, most gut-wrenching, and honestly most liberating decisions we'll ever make. We've all been hurt. We've all felt the sting of betrayal, the disappointment of being let down, and the weight of resentment sitting heavy in our bones. And at some point we ask, should I forgive and hold on, or should I let go and move on? All right, before we dive in, I want to ask you for a little favor. If you find yourself nodding along, feeling inspired, or maybe even seeing things in a new light, take a moment to support this space. Hit that like button. It's a simple way to say, hey, this mattered to me. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And you know that bell icon? That's like a little nudge from the universe, reminding you to keep showing up for yourself. Click it and you'll get a gentle reminder every time something new drops. And lastly, if something resonates with you today, share it, because you never know who might need these words. A friend, a family member, or even someone you haven't talked to in a while. Sharing is how we create conversations that matter. All right, ready? Let's get started. Forgiveness is not about condoning what someone did or pretending that it didn't hurt. It's not about saying it's okay when it absolutely wasn't. In fact, forgiveness has very little to do with the other person. It's about you. It's about choosing to release the hold that resentment, anger, and bitterness have on your heart. And let me tell you, that's not easy. It's not something you do because it feels good. It's something you do because holding on to that pain will eventually wear you down. We tend to think of forgiveness as a gift we give to the person who wronged us. Maybe we even fear that forgiving means we're letting them off the hook. But the truth is, forgiveness isn't about setting them free. It's about setting yourself free. When you refuse to forgive, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The bitterness festers, the resentment grows, and before you know it, the hurt you experienced once has now built a permanent home inside you. But here's the thing, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior. It doesn't mean pretending like it never happened. What it means is that you're choosing not to carry the burden of that pain any longer. You're choosing to say, I'm not going to let what happened dictate my joy, my peace, or my future. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but they haven't even apologized. How can I forgive someone who isn't sorry? And that's a valid question. We often wait for remorse, for accountability, for that perfect moment when the person who hurt us acknowledges what they did. But what if that moment never comes? What if they never apologize? Or worse, what if they don't think they did anything wrong? That's when forgiveness becomes an act of radical self-love. It's a conscious decision to say, I'm no longer going to tether myself to this pain. I'm no longer going to let what you did define how I see myself, my life, or my worth. It's not easy, and it's certainly not a one-time event. Forgiveness is a process. Some days you'll feel like you've released the hurt, and other days the resentment will creep back in. That's okay. Healing is rarely linear, but each time you choose forgiveness, you take a little more power back. And here's something else to remember. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. Sometimes we believe that forgiving someone means we have to welcome them back into our lives with open arms. But that's not true. You can forgive someone from a distance. You can release the resentment without reestablishing a relationship. Because forgiveness is about what happens within you, not about rebuilding trust with someone who hasn't earned it. Think about it like this. When you forgive, you're no longer allowing the person who hurt you to occupy space in your heart and mind. You're reclaiming your emotional energy. You're making room for joy, peace, and healing. And maybe most importantly, you're proving to yourself that what happened to you does not define you. You are not your pain. You are not your trauma. You are not the words someone carelessly threw your way or the betrayal that shattered your trust. You are someone who has the courage to stand in the face of that pain and say, I will not let this break me. I will not carry this with me for one more day. That's what forgiveness is. It's a gift, but not for them. It's a gift for you. And when you choose to forgive, you're not weak, you're not naive, you are powerful. Because anyone can hold a grudge, but it takes incredible strength to release one. And you, my friend, are stronger than you know. Moving on is one of the most misunderstood acts of courage we can take. We often associate it with giving up, as if deciding to walk away means we've failed or weren't strong enough to make things work. But the truth is, moving on is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of strength. It's a bold, brave choice to reclaim your life, your joy, and your peace, even when every part of you wants to hold on just a little longer. Let's be honest. We are conditioned to believe that endurance is always admirable. We hear phrases like stick it out, never give up, and fight for what you want. And in some situations, perseverance is a beautiful thing. Commitment matters, loyalty matters. But what about when staying is costing you your dignity, your self-worth, and your emotional well-being? What about when the fight is no longer for growth or healing, but simply to survive the constant pain? Choosing to move on doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean the relationship, friendship, or situation wasn't important to you. In fact, sometimes it's because you cared so deeply that walking away becomes the hardest choice of all. But strength isn't always about holding on. Strength is knowing when something is no longer serving you. Strength is recognizing when your well-being is being compromised and having the courage to say, enough is enough. And let's talk about that fear, the fear of what it means to let go. Because for so many of us, walking away doesn't just mean losing a person or a situation. It means confronting the uncertainty of what comes next. It means facing the questions we've been avoiding. Who am I without this relationship? What if I never find this kind of connection again? What if I regret this choice? That fear is real and it's valid. But what's also real is the cost of staying somewhere that no longer brings you peace. The cost of holding on to something that constantly drains you. Because when you stay in situations that break your spirit, you're not just losing time, you're losing pieces of yourself. Your joy, your confidence, your belief in what's possible for your life. Moving on is not an act of rejection. It's an act of self-respect. It's acknowledging that you deserve relationships and environments where you are valued, respected, and loved, not just tolerated. And sometimes the hardest truth we have to face is that not everyone is capable of giving us that. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Not every friendship can grow with us, and that's okay. There's a beautiful kind of strength in recognizing when a chapter has come to an end. It's the strength of standing in your truth, even when it's painful. It's the strength of refusing to settle for less than what you know you deserve. And perhaps most importantly, it's the strength of believing in yourself. Believing that even though the path ahead may be uncertain, you are capable of building something new. And I get it. Moving on doesn't mean the pain disappears. There will be days when the memories come rushing back, when you question whether you made the right choice. Healing is rarely a straight line. It's more like a spiral. Some days you'll feel like you've made incredible progress, and other days the grief will pull you back. But every time you choose to keep going, every time you choose yourself, you are healing. You are proving that your strength isn't defined by how much you can endure, but by how fiercely you protect your own peace. And here's the thing, moving on doesn't mean you failed. It means you were brave enough to recognize that your worth is not tied to someone else's ability to see it. It means you're refusing to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. It means you're making space for something better, something that honors who you are and all that you are becoming. So if you're standing at that crossroads right now, wondering if it's time to let go, I want you to know this. Moving on is not abandonment. It is not weakness. It is a powerful declaration that your happiness, your peace, and your well-being are worth fighting for. And no matter what lies ahead, you will find your way, because that strength, it's already within you. Forgiveness is often portrayed as a two-way street, a delicate exchange where one person acknowledges their wrongdoing, offers a heartfelt apology, and the other, in turn, graciously accepts and releases the burden of resentment. That's the version of forgiveness we see in movies and hear about in stories. But life isn't always so neat. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the person who hurt us doesn't believe they did anything wrong. And sometimes they're no longer even in our lives. So what then? Are we supposed to stay stuck carrying the weight of that pain forever just because we never got the closure we hoped for? Here's the hard truth. Forgiveness does not require an invitation. It's not something that has to wait on someone else's acknowledgement or remorse. It's something you choose for yourself on your own terms in your own time. Because waiting for someone to apologize is like standing in the rain, hoping it'll stop just because you don't like getting wet. The storm might pass, but it also might not. And you deserve to find shelter, even if they never admit they were the reason it started pouring in the first place. We sometimes believe that withholding forgiveness gives us power, that if we stay angry, we're somehow making them pay. But the truth is, unforgiveness is like a chain that keeps us tethered to the very person who hurt us. Every time we replay the moment of betrayal in our minds, every time we relive the words they said or the choices they made, we give that pain a little more control over us. It becomes part of our narrative, shaping how we see the world, how we see others, and how we see ourselves. But forgiveness is the act of saying, I will not let what you did define me. It's reclaiming your story. It's saying, I deserve peace and I will no longer allow this pain to take up space in my heart. And you can choose that, not because they earned it, but because you're tired of carrying the weight. And let's be clear, forgiving someone doesn't mean that what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you're excusing their actions or pretending it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean you have to invite them back into your life. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. In fact, sometimes the most powerful act of forgiveness is the one that happens in silence. It's the forgiveness that says, I release you from the power you once held over me, but I will never forget what I learned from this experience. And I know what you might be thinking, but what if they don't deserve my forgiveness? What if they're not even sorry? And that's fair. It's painful to think about forgiving someone who has shown no remorse. But here's the thing, your healing is not dependent on their regret. Forgiveness isn't about making them feel better. It's about making you feel lighter. Sometimes the people who hurt us are never capable of offering a genuine apology. Maybe they lack the self-awareness to see the harm they caused. Maybe they're unwilling to face their own guilt. Or maybe they're simply no longer here to apologize. And if we tie our healing to their actions, we risk staying stuck, trapped in a cycle of waiting for something that may never come. But forgiveness? That's something you can choose without waiting for an invitation. You can wake up one morning and decide that today you're going to loosen your grip on the resentment. You can decide that today you're going to breathe a little deeper, smile a little easier, and carry a little less of the weight that's been on your shoulders. And guess what? No one else has to be involved in that decision. It's yours alone. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Forgiveness is not a one and done kind of thing. It's not like flipping a switch and instantly feeling free. Some days the anger will creep back in. Some days the pain will feel fresh, like it just happened. But each time you choose to forgive, you're reinforcing your commitment to your own healing. You're reminding yourself that your peace is worth more than your bitterness. And one more thing, Forgiveness doesn't mean the relationship has to continue. You can forgive someone and still choose to walk away. You can release the resentment and still decide that this person no longer belongs in your life. Because forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to subject yourself to continued harm. In fact, the healthiest boundaries are often built on the foundation of forgiveness. When you forgive, you free yourself from the need to seek revenge, to hold on to anger, or to wait for someone else's remorse. And that clarity makes it easier to say, I wish you well, but I will no longer accept what I once tolerated. So if you've been waiting for an apology, waiting for someone to see the damage they caused, waiting for the perfect moment when forgiveness will feel easy, I want you to know that you don't have to wait any longer. You can choose peace right here, right now. You can decide that the hurt they caused is no longer going to be the loudest voice in your life, because forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. And you, my friend, deserve to be free. Boundaries are one of the most courageous acts of self-respect we can offer ourselves. They are the lines we draw to protect our emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. But for many of us, setting and maintaining boundaries feels uncomfortable, even selfish. We worry that if we say no, if we stand our ground, we'll be seen as cold or unforgiving. We fear that we'll push people away, lose relationships, or be labeled as difficult. But the truth is, boundaries are not a form of punishment. They are not about controlling others or proving a point. Boundaries are about care for yourself, and even sometimes care for the relationship. They create clarity and safety, defining what is acceptable and what is not. And most importantly, they send a powerful message to yourself. I am worthy of respect, and I will not tolerate behavior that diminishes me. The tricky part is that when we start setting boundaries, not everyone is going to applaud us. Some people will challenge them. Some will push back, question, or guilt us into bending. Especially if they benefited from the absence of boundaries before, they may see your newfound self-respect as a personal offense. They might say things like, you've changed, or why are you being so difficult? But here's what I need you to remember. Their discomfort does not mean you're doing something wrong. In fact, when people resist our boundaries, it often confirms why we needed them in the first place. Those who genuinely respect and care for you will listen, even if they don't immediately understand. They may not like your boundary, but they will honor it. Others, though, may try to convince you that your boundaries are unreasonable. They'll tell you that you're overreacting, being dramatic, or making a big deal out of nothing. But when you feel the need to justify your own peace, that's a red flag. You don't owe anyone a dissertation on why your boundaries matter. The fact that they matter to you is enough. And here's another truth. Boundaries are not ultimate. They are not threats. They are not weapons we use to manipulate others. Boundaries are statements of what we are and are not willing to accept. They are an invitation for healthier relationships, not a demand for control. And when people refuse to honor them, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their unwillingness to respect you. But I know it's not always easy. Many of us, especially those who grew up in environments where boundaries were ignored or punished, struggle with the fear that setting limits will lead to abandonment. We become people pleasers, believing that if we just stay agreeable, keep the peace, and sacrifice our own needs, we'll be loved and accepted. But the problem with that is, it's not real belonging. When we abandon our boundaries for the sake of approval, we're not being loved for who we are. We're being tolerated for the version of ourselves that makes others comfortable. And let's be honest, sometimes the hardest boundaries we set are with the people we love the most. Family, friends, partners, the relationships where the lines blur and the stakes feel impossibly high. We convince ourselves that because we care about someone, we should tolerate their harmful behavior. That because they're family, we're obligated to endure the emotional fallout. But love without boundaries is not love. It's self-betrayal. You are not mean for protecting your peace. You are not cold for saying no. And you are certainly not selfish for choosing yourself. In fact, setting boundaries is one of the most compassionate things you can do. It says to the people around you, I value this relationship enough to communicate my needs. And I value myself enough to walk away if those needs are disregarded. That's not cruelty, that's integrity. And sometimes, yes, setting boundaries means relationships will change. Some people won't like the new version of you, the version that speaks up, says no, and refuses to be mistreated. But let them go. Let them fall away if they cannot rise to meet the respect you deserve. Because your well-being is not a bargaining chip. Your worth is not up for debate. But I also want to say this. Setting boundaries is not about perfection. You're not always going to get it right. Sometimes you'll let something slide, realize later that you should have spoken up, or struggle to hold firm when someone pushes back. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Boundaries are a practice. They're something you grow into with every hard conversation, every difficult choice, and every moment you choose yourself over the fear of disappointing others. And if someone tells you that your boundaries are too much or that you've become too distant, I want you to remember this. The people who truly belong in your life will not see your boundaries as obstacles. They will see them as guideposts. They will listen, they will adjust, and they will choose to meet you in that space of mutual respect, because the people who love you for real will never ask you to abandon yourself to make them comfortable. So stand firm, protect your peace. Speak your truth even when your voice shakes. And your boundaries are not up for negotiation, and neither is your worth. Healing is one of the most misunderstood journeys we will ever take. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to think of it as a destination, a finish line we're supposed to cross once we've gotten over it. We're told that time heals all wounds, as if healing is as simple as waiting for the days to pass. But anyone who has ever been heartbroken, betrayed, or deeply wounded knows that time alone doesn't mend a fractured spirit. Healing is not a switch you flip. It's not a linear path with a clear start and finish. Healing is a process, a messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal process that unfolds in its own time. One of the hardest things about healing is that we often expect it to follow a logical progression. We think, I'll feel terrible for a while, then I'll start feeling a little better, and eventually I'll move on. But healing rarely works that way. Some days you'll wake up feeling lighter, convinced that the worst is behind you. Then, without warning, a memory, a song, or a familiar scent can pull you right back into the pain, leaving you questioning whether you've made any progress at all. That's the nature of healing. It ebbs and flows. It's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. We live in a world that glorifies resilience and celebrates moving on as quickly as possible. People might tell you it's been long enough, you should be over it by now, as if there's an expiration date on your grief. But healing doesn't work on anyone else's timeline. There is no universal standard for how long it should take to mend a broken heart or find peace after betrayal. Your healing is yours alone. No one else gets to decide when it should be finished. And here's something important to remember. Healing is not about forgetting. It's not about erasing what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. Some wounds will leave scars, and those scars will remain a part of your story. But healing is about learning to live alongside those scars without letting them define you. It's about making space for joy and peace, even when the memories still linger. Healing also requires courage, the courage to face the pain instead of bearing it. Because let's be honest, numbing is tempting. When the weight of your emotions feels unbearable, it's easy to distract yourself with work, social media, relationships, or anything that promises even a temporary escape. But avoidance is not healing. It's like pressing pause on your pain only to have it resurface later with even greater force. True healing asks us to sit with our emotions, even when they're uncomfortable. It asks us to acknowledge the hurt, grieve the losses, and confront the truths we'd rather avoid. And grief, let's talk about grief, because healing and grief are often intertwined. Grief isn't just about losing people, it's about losing dreams, losing trust, losing parts of yourself you once cherished. It's mourning what could have been, what should have been, and what will never be. And the only way to heal from that kind of loss is to allow yourself to grieve fully. There is no shame in crying, in feeling angry, in admitting that you're not okay. Those emotions are not signs of weakness. They're evidence of your humanity. But healing isn't all sorrow and struggle. It's also the small, quiet moments of relief. The first time you catch yourself laughing without forcing it, the moment you realize a memory no longer stings the way it used to, the day you wake up and notice that the weight on your chest feels just a little lighter, those moments are just as much a part of healing as the tears and the pain. They are proof that even in your darkest moments, your heart is still capable of joy. And don't underestimate the importance of support in your healing journey. Healing doesn't mean you have to do it alone. It's okay to lean on people who love you. It's okay to ask for help, to seek therapy, or to talk through your pain with someone who understands. Vulnerability is not a burden, it's a bridge, a connection that reminds you that you don't have to carry the weight alone. And if the people around you struggle to understand your healing process, that's okay too. Not everyone will get it. Some will grow impatient. Some will offer well-meaning but unhelpful advice like, just think positive, or it could be worse. But you don't have to justify your pain to anyone. Your healing is valid even if it doesn't look the way others expect it to. There will be moments when you'll wonder if you're making any progress at all. But trust me when I say this, every tear you shed, every boundary you set, every time you choose to face your emotions instead of running from them, you are healing, even on the days when it doesn't feel like it. Even when the pain resurfaces, the fact that you are still standing, still choosing yourself, still trying, that is healing in motion. So give yourself grace, be patient with your heart, allow yourself to feel the waves of sadness without judgment, celebrate the moments of peace when they come, and know that setbacks are not failures. They're just part of the process. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll notice that the pain that once consumed you no longer has the same hold. You'll feel a little lighter. You'll smile without the shadow of grief. And when that day comes, it won't mean you've forgotten what happened. It will mean you found a way to carry it without it carrying you. Healing is not a switch you flip. It's a journey. And every single step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. Keep going. You're already further than you think. So here's what I want you to take with you today. Forgive because you deserve peace, not because they deserve a pass. Move on when staying costs you your self-respect. You don't need an apology to heal. Boundaries are acts of self-love. Healing is not a destination, it's a journey. Life is too short to be weighed down by pain you didn't ask for. So let's do the brave thing. Let's set ourselves free because you are worth it. Thank you.